During the mayor's remarks tonight, he might refer you to these folks that they might have more specific answers to the question that you asked. And so from the Office of Education, we have Adam Etkin. From the Department of Planning and Development, we have Marshall Foster. From the Office of Economic Development, we have Lance Randall. From the Seattle Department of Transportation, we have Dong Chang and Leanne Nelson. From the Human Services Department, we have Edwin Obras. And then we have our favorite police officers from the Southwest Precinct. We have Lieutenant Pierre Davis. And of course, his boss, Captain Steve Paulson. Okay, so the mayor's going to make some opening remarks, and then we'll open it up for y'all to ask questions. So everyone who wanted to ask a question should have signed up, and you should have a number. We'll just go through the numbers. If you have not signed up and you need to get a number, you can sign up at the table right out in the lobby. And so when your number is called, all you need to do is stand up, and our friendly Ed Hockhurst from the Department of Neighborhoods will bring the microphone to you. And so once we get to that part, you'll have 1 minute to ask your question. We ask that you do ask it in the form of a question and not make a speech, if you would, please. And with that, I'd like to introduce the 52nd mayor of the city of Seattle and give him a warm Delridge welcome.
I think that when Pete describes Delridge, it gets bigger and bigger. I'm not sure. So thank you all for having me here. And also thank you to the city employees that are here. And I may, and you all should know, if there's something I need to say or add to the answer to the question to make it more accurate, or to make it accurate, let me know. It's important that we share what we know with folks. They're also here, as Pete said, because sometimes we can just make a direct connection. And if you can make that connection with somebody with the ability to help, that makes a difference. I will answer to the best of my ability. I will supplement to the best of our ability. If we can't answer a question tonight and you signed in, we will follow up and send an email or letter to anyone who signed in with any additional information that we get after the meeting, because we want to do that. Also, if you don't want to ask a question, if you just want to let me know something, that's okay too. There's something you feel strongly about, something I don't understand yet, and you just need to make sure I'm aware of that. You can do that as well. I see some old friends, and maybe we're going to make some new friends here today, people that are engaged in the community. I'm tempted to just go straight to the questions. If I made some remarks, I guess I'm going to say we're starting to see things turn around in this city economically, which is good. Because I think about where we were a couple of years ago, a few years ago, when we hit the depths of the recession. The city of Seattle lost about 35,000 jobs from the top of the last boom to the bottom. And we think we've recovered more than half those jobs, but there's still more to do on that. Unemployment rate now in the city of Seattle, to the best I understand, is about 6.5%. which is still relatively high historically, but it's a lot lower than, we're leading the state in terms of bringing back jobs. A lot of the job growth that's occurred statewide is occurring right here in Seattle. And it's a testament to a lot of the advantages we have here. One of those is strong neighborhoods. Another is, a culture of innovation and creativity. Whether it was in building things or in creating software or the like. But we still have a lot of work to do, because while we can see that this is a city that can create prosperity, it's not true that everybody shares in that prosperity. So we have to do a better job of making sure that all of our children are well educated, that those who may have finished school or not finished school and are out there in the community trying to connect, and we're looking for opportunities to do that. So that's another one of our focuses, is both on the educational system and on job training for those in need. We're also trying to have a focus, I was talking about jobs and job recovery, working with businesses, large and small, and business districts to really understand what their needs are. I think city government in Seattle got into the habit when times are really good, when times are really booming, that we thought our biggest challenge was how do we manage growth? How do we prevent the negative impacts of a growing economy? And then we experienced what it felt like to have really high unemployment, a lot of people in need. And I have really worked hard to have a city government that's very responsive to people and their needs, whether it's businesses that are looking at permitting, that are looking for training, that are looking for loans, and we've worked as hard as we can to get money from the federal government around that, to individuals who are looking to figure out how to get connected into the economy as well. And there's a lot more work to be done in that regard, but I do say it feels different now than it did before. One of the ways that the bad economy demonstrated what it was to us is the challenges we had with keeping our community centers open. We had to make some hard choices about number of hours. We let our number of police officers reduce a little through attrition because of the budget situation we faced. The level of maintenance we gave to our parks. We were also looking for efficiencies in city government. We combined departments, reduced travel, reduced the size of reduced the number of automobiles we owned and gave out to employees to use. We negotiated pay cuts with city employee unions. Pay cut's a strong word. They had a guaranteed minimum 2% raise, and we negotiated actual inflation. We negotiated contracts to get that, which made a difference. But we're starting to see that turn around a little bit. With the strong economy, we're starting to see revenues return. Generally, though, government kind of lags the rest of the economy. So I'm hopeful that this year's budget won't be as rough as the last ones have been, and we can actually start looking at what are some new priorities or old priorities that deserve attention that we can start reinvesting in. So that's big picture where we are. I've tried to give you some of my values right there. We really have to focus on good, sustainable economic growth that everybody can share in. So we need not just to pay attention to business, but pay attention to people and make sure people have the skills to work in that. And we need to identify what our strengths are in the city, like innovation, creativity, manufacturing, our strong neighborhoods in that sense, and keep investing in those things as well. So I'll stop there so we can just get to the questions. And appreciate everyone coming out and appreciate the opportunity to see the pride that our neighborhoods have in their place with the community groups here tabling that are working to make this a better place. So thanks everyone for coming out, and we can turn to questions.
All right. Who has the lucky number 1? Okay. And who has number 2? Okay.
Hi, my name is Sam Bellamy. I'm here with Stand Up America. Let me clean the air real quick and say that we're still projecting a $20 million shortfall next year. We are closing the libraries down for a week next week. So I don't care how much good news there is, the reality is different. So my point of coming is to speak to you every time that you have these town halls about your salary. How it's $170,000, it's tripled over the last 3 decades, and how you make $10,000 more than the governor. Now information centers such as the library are being shut down to maintain these rates. You say you can't lower this, you're right, by the city's rule you can't. Who says you can't work on the budget with the council to lower it? Why don't you tell me I can go present this? I've said it to them, they don't care. But if you said it, you really cared, you would lower that. So what are you going to do?
So we do have a 1-week library closure this year. And thanks to the voters passing the library levy, that's something that we can fix. And that's one of the things we'll do in the coming years, is that we're putting more money into the hours, the book collection, computers, etc., through the library levy. I do make a good salary, and we have this conversation in every one of my town halls, by the way. So, and I do make a good salary. In fact, pretty much the best salary I've ever made. And I work pretty hard. Figure I got a 4-year shot at this. I'm going to do the best I can in that 4 years, and you all will decide whether I'm worthy of doing this again. I have donated $10,000 of my salary, because what he pointed out was by city charter, I'm not allowed to unilaterally reduce my salary. So what I do is I make a donation of $10,000 a year to charities in the city of Seattle that provide direct services to Seattle citizens that are in need. I actually asked my wife and kid to choose that, so I don't pick them, they pick them. And so we're going to keep doing that. As you said, weren't for the fact that I got to, make a living. I got kids heading off to college. I love this job. I do it for free. City council wants to change my salary. They can go ahead and do that.
You could say $10 million. You and the council were back in 2000.
Okay.
If they wanted to change my salary, I love this job.
So if you need a suggestion for a donation to West Seattle Food Bank, we'd be glad to take some.
Speak to my wife.
So question number 2, and with number 3, we'll raise their hands so that Ed knows where to come next.
Hi, my name is Alex Zimmerman and I represent Stand Up America. Stand Up America, stand up for ordinary people. We have a pure fascist with Gasper Gestapo principle, and I give you a very good example. We have a judicial system, judges, 100 judges, but it's never reported to people. It's absurd by definition. Judge duty number 1 is protect Constitution. We have judges who totally ignore Constitution. This means all judges acting like a potential criminals. So situation right now is very dangerous. It is go for 25 years what is I live in this city. If we spoke with you about this before, you elected men too. And you have town hall every 2 weeks. It's a beautiful point, you know what this means. Every 2 weeks we can talk to you, we can ask you, you can answer us. Your duty number 1 is protection Constitution. It's your duty number 1. And like all elected officials, duty number 1 is a Constitution. So we right now have a criminal judicial system what is supported by you. Because when you supposed to be protect us, protect Constitution, your duty right now changes and talk to judges and ask very simple question. Why I, a mayor, elected official, have a town hall every 2 weeks? Why judges in Seattle, 100 judges, for 25 years never talk to people who elect these judges? So my question to you right now, are you will protect us Constitution, or you will be together with judges in criminal way?
I will protect the Constitution. In fact, I took an oath to do it. I like the town halls. If the judges wanted to hold town halls, they're welcome to do that.
Okay, question number 3. Question number 3. Okay. And where's number 4? Okay.
Thank you. About 10 years ago, there used to be a lot more new buildings filling up the site on 40th and the north side of Alaska Street. So when those people started to fill up those houses, they all wanted to have parking on 2 sides rather than 1 side. And now it has so many cars on there that you enter on the west side or the south side, or the north side only. And you wait for everybody to race down the street. So it's part of your new stuff on Alaska, but this has even gotten worse.
The amount of traffic, is this what we're getting at, the amount of traffic on the street? I just want to make sure I understand what the question was.
I didn't hear it.
I'm sorry, your question was about the amount of traffic that's brought by new development. Is that the issue?
Yeah, I actually wanted to do submitting my turnaround system over on the south end of the street when we were going to build somebody in a big hole right behind me. And
got it. Okay, so there's a specific street that's being used, people are using it kind of as a cut-through route and going fast down that street to avoid traffic elsewhere. Could we, Don, so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. So I'm joined here by Don Ho Chang. He's the city traffic engineer, And if we could identify that street and we could start figuring out, just have a discussion about what are the options for looking at traffic calming on that street or things we can do. By the way, I live up in Greenwood, and if you know Greenwood, 85th and Greenwood nobody likes going through that light. So I actually live on the street that people would race up and down to avoid the light and do a little, go right then left and get where they were going. So I spent a lot of time working on traffic calming in my neighborhood. Neighborhood Street Fund was important. Neighborhood Matching Fund was important. The Traffic Circle program. So there are things that we do have funding sources within the city to work with neighborhoods on traffic calming ideas. I'd like to have more money in that because I sense that there's more requests for that type of traffic calming than there is dollars. Sometimes the physical design of the street, the physical design of the street makes a big difference about how fast people will feel comfortable going. The other thing is we could look at enforcement as well if people are speeding. So Don will follow up with you on what the options are for that. Thank you.
Okay, number 4, and where's number 5? Okay.
Hi, Mayor McGinn. As you know, the federal government has come in and taken over our police department because it's gotten really bad. Our officers and our chain of command just aren't doing the job. You picked the current Chief Diaz. You were at the debate we had a couple years ago. We had Chief Brazil from Sacramento, Chief Davis from East Palo Alto, and Chief Diaz. A lot of the people that I talked to say that Chief Diaz came in last place in that debate. Could you walk us through your thought process as far as why you hired him?
Sure, happy to. And the federal government has not taken over our police department. We have a police department. We have made commitments to undertake certain activities. It will be monitored. It will be court enforceable. We're committed to making those changes. But it's still the City of Seattle Police Department. And that's a good question you asked about my thought process, and I'm happy to talk about that. So we had a large search committee that, they narrowed it down to 3, and that were referred to me. So there were 3 candidates referred to me. We had Chief Brazil from Sacramento, Davis from East Palo Alto, and Chief Diaz, who's been the acting chief for about a year, and has been with the Seattle Police Department the whole time. And Chief Brazil withdrew he pulled his name from consideration after he came to town. I think he looked around the Emerald City and decided there was no place like home. And he's still down there in Sacramento. So my choice was between restart or go with Diaz or Davis. And I'd had the opportunity over that period of time to work with Chief Diaz on some very specific issues. And in fact, by then the issue of the Shandy Cobain and his treatment of somebody that was under custody, the language he used was entirely inappropriate. And I had the opportunity to watch Chief Diaz and how he responded to that. I also had the opportunity to watch how Chief Diaz responded to the police chief search itself, and how he conducted himself in that. I concluded from that process that the chief, what I noticed about the chief was he's not a self-promoter, but he was always getting promoted. And I think he makes fun himself of his own performance. He was not a native English speaker. He grew up a Spanish-speaking family, and his friends from his youth who knew him then said he's now inarticulate in 2 languages. He pokes fun at himself. So he's not the charismatic speaker, and I'll grant you that. But I have no question at all about this chief's commitment to change, this chief's commitment to treatment of individuals. He has responded to these incidents. The shooting of John Williams, the officer who did that, that shooting was found to be unjustified by the police department. The police department was the only entity that took action. Not the county prosecutor, not the city attorney, not even the federal government took any action on that. We were the only, SPD was the only entity to police itself on that and say the shooting was unjustified. The chief has made it clear that the use of racial terms is grounds for termination, and that's a new grounds for the city. And you know, I just have the experience to work with him. So he's got a challenge ahead of him. I've got a challenge ahead of me. And I've had to grow in my job, and the chief's going to have to keep growing in his job too. But I have no question about where his values lie and what he believes in. And that's what I felt at the time that I made the decision too. The other candidate had very little experience in the big police department, and I was very concerned that he would not have the capacity to be able to drive change within the department over time. And it's simplistic sometimes to think that the outsider brings change and the insider can't. The fact of the matter is we've had outside chiefs for 20 plus years. And my bet was on Chief Diaz on that. Thank you.
Okay, number 5, and then where's number 6?
My name is Cindy Barker. I live on Morgan Street. I wrote my question down so I could be succinct.
Thank you.
So I received this flyer last Thursday saying that all the parking on the south side of Morgan Street was going to be eliminated and a bike lane put in by late summer. Okay. I'm pretty confused because the bike master plan has never had any facilities discussed or scheduled for Morgan Street. And I know that because I participated in the bike master plan process in 2007. The SDOT coordinator for this project tells me that 45 parking places will be removed, but he also says that at peak, only 13 cars park on this street, both sides, which means maybe 7 or 8 park on the south side of the street. And I know most of those parking are down in the flat part before you start the hill, because that's in the business district. He was also unaware that the Morgan Junction Neighborhood Plan has a policy to preserve parking in the business district at the bottom of the hill. My question is, why are you spending money to put in a bike lane to avoid cars that aren't parked there? And why is this being done without public input and instead of other important bike master plan work items like something on 35th? It's just wrong. What are you thinking?
Well, that's a great question, and I have to say I'm not that familiar with that project. Is there someone here from SDOT who wants to speak to that specific project? Yeah, so, I mean, I can't speak specifically about that street. I know, and we will talk to you about it, and so I feel bad that I don't have the details on that project. And I am briefed on many projects, and I do keep many of them in my head, but that one is, I'm sorry, it's not there. I will say this, we do outreach on all of these projects in speaking to people. So it surprised me if there were no public outreach, and you might tell me differently, and I'll have to follow up on that. Okay.
You might do something.
Oh, okay. Well, then so that may be worth following up on. They do go out, as you noticed, they do go out and actually, this is one of the biggest challenges we face in the city, is as more people choose to ride bicycles, as more people choose to use transit, and that's happening in the city right now, how do we allocate street right-of-way? So it is a street-by-street process where we try to balance all uses. I'm going to have to follow up on that one, and we're going to have to speak to you about that one to see where it is. If there are a lot of community concerns about it, then we'll go out and talk to the community about it and try to work our way through it. Thank you.
Okay, number 6, right here. And where's number 7? Okay, number 7's right up front here.
Mayor, thanks for being here, for
Thank
volunteering to be in the hot seat. I think you earned your salary.
Thank you.
Anyway, I have 2 questions. First is a concern. It's a public safety concern that is alarming and speculative. So my first question is, may I have 2 more minutes after the meeting to talk to you about this issue?
Let's just go, see what we can do.
Well, my main question right now is about Puget Creek watershed. Are you familiar with Puget Creek? Are you aware that the Amish tribe has been trying to daylight it near Kellogg Island and Longhouse?
Okay.
There are some issues about kiln dust that, as I understand it, the city actually allowed to be dumped into the West Bronx Greenbelt, and this affects water quality. There's a lot of issues around there.
So will daylighting it cause some of the kiln dust and its negative effects to kind of resurface, so to speak?
There's a lot of issues, a lot of challenges. My question is the city ready to take leadership in righting a historic wrong and restoring the environment and perhaps creating an environmental destination for green tourism to develop this, to environmentally develop this part of the city?
Puget Creek. I feel really bad. I don't know that I've been to a town hall where I've been stumped twice in a row about what our current status is on something. Is there someone here from SBU who can speak to Puget Creek or parks about where we are on that? Yeah. I mean, I'm familiar with the area, and I know we've been doing work on the Greenbelt, park there. In fact, I kayaked around Kellogg Island, and, back when I had a little more free time. So I'm going to have to follow up on Puget Creek and what our position is on that and what we can do. I'm sorry that I can't give you a more direct answer. But now you've brought it to my attention, which is why I come to these town hall meetings. And we'll see if we can follow up briefly after the meeting too. Thanks.
Okay. Number 7, and then where's number 8? Okay, number 8's in the back.
Thanks for coming back to Delridge, Mayor.
Thank you. I mean, the sign said Westwood when I pulled in.
Delridge District.
Okay.
I'm going to be joined by myself here. So, a couple of projects going on right now. A couple comments on. The first is the Delridge Avenue.
Right.
That's currently going on. And just let you know that.
Yeah, we don't give it.
We don't do that anymore. No.
We don't give up the mic.
All right. So right now, that project, as it's currently happening, it's unfolding, and it's a work in progress. We've had a number of meetings with SDOT and a couple other folks about how that project is coming along. And what we see is, as far as the Delridge District, is a tremendous opportunity to make real dynamic change throughout the course of an entire area. And what we've been asking for repeatedly is that we look at this project as an opportunity, one where we could make some significant improvements to the entirety of this region, this district. And what we've been exhorting the officials is, please don't think of this as a roads project, think of it as a community project. Now, what we're having a challenge with is getting multiple agencies, what we feel multiple agencies will need to align in order to make this happen. DPD, OED, SDOT would only be working cooperatively to create what we consider to be that boulevard that we're trying to establish for this area. We think that it'd have a real dynamic change. So I would just like to, encourage you to...
So let me inquire a little bit about this, because I actually was briefed on this project a couple of weeks ago. And what I was briefed on primarily was, the lane configuration, some crossing improvements and the like, and kind of how the configuration would change through different pieces. Are there specific elements, are there things that we're not getting at that you think we should be getting at? As we look at the current state of the problem, what would you want to see different?
So that would, and that's the SDOT portion of the project. What we're additionally looking to try and accomplish is to create maybe wider sidewalks in areas, lighting. There's a couple of specific business hubs that go along that road. We'd like to encourage better bus stops there, maybe some foliage, things like that really turn it from a street project into a boulevard or a community project.
Okay, so we have the timing of this project, which is, kind of this commitment under Bridging the Gap to get this project done. And when is that scheduled for construction done now? Next year, it's scheduled for construction. Okay, and some of these things don't necessarily have to be tied to the construction project, but I hear what you're saying around lighting. Some of these things might be design guidelines. Have you guys adopted neighborhood-specific design guidelines yet?
The neighborhood plan does exist, and it outlines a little bit of it, but it would be, it's due for an update.
Okay, so it's intriguing to me, and I don't know what we should do next, but what I would invite is maybe we can get some representatives from the community to just meet let's get SDOT, we'll just try to get a few people from different departments in a room, we'll meet with you, and we'll just explore what's feasible. Okay, so I just committed city employees to some work, so we'll figure out how to do that.
Could I interject one
Sure.
thought for what is that the one thing Matt did say was that all the plans end at Andover, and there are no plans whatsoever from Andover to the entrance to the bridge or the roadways that go under the bridge. So once they get to Andover, it's like the Keystone Cops are going to take over.
We do have some plans with Sarah also. We're thinking about we do have some plans that we have some funding for some spot improvements from Andover to the bridge, widening the sidewalk, making the crossing improvements easier. And so it is low cost, and we're looking to implement that as well. But again, it's not a large vision, so we'd love to hear from you on what you think that connection should be, so that we can endeavor to accomplish it for you.
But the point and thank you, Don Ho. Don Ho is a city traffic engineer. So, but the point you raise is broader than, the point you're raising, which I'm hearing you say is, there's SDOT and the road, but there's other agencies and there's other things that could be addressed. Marshall, you want to speak on? Thank you, Marshall. I was thinking about putting you on the spot, but thanks for stepping up. Marshall Foster is the city's planning director and works for the Department of Planning and Development.
Just one thing I wanted to add to the conversation on this. We've actually been talking in planning and development about the opportunity around Del Ridge Corridor. One of the things we do, many of you know, we do neighborhood planning. We've been working in different neighborhoods around the city. Here, and actually we've had some conversations with Chaz and others about this as well, we think there's an opportunity to work with the Office of Economic Development, maybe build on the SDOT project and really look at the different nodes along Del Ridge and how to support the growth of the business district and some of the uses that will activate the street, provide lighting, seating, things that would enhance the corridor. We don't have the resources right now to do it. We're working through the work we're already committed to. And the
resources to do the planning.
To do the planning work, exactly.
Okay.
And it is sort of tentatively on our projected work plan for 2013 to start to do that. We do need to do some more discussion with our Office of Economic Development because we think we ought to do that in a partnership with them.
Yes, please and thank you.
So what you're hearing is from Marshall is there's some interest from DPD in trying to look at this more holistically. We are actually, we started a program called Only in Seattle, which is a neighborhood business district granting program, which we hope to continue next year. So that would be the place to potentially find some resources as well. So let's keep talking about how we can take a look at the corridor.
Great.
Okay, we're up to number 8. Where's number 9? Okay.
Tony Fregato from Alki Community. Thanks for
Excuse me, from which community?
Alki.
Alki, thank you.
And thanks for your response to our mudslide issues. Parks has been really helpful in terms of trying to help, giving us resources to see what kind of options we have, so really appreciate that. Another comment I have is we have the new FAA Green Skies initiative. They're practicing a new landing pattern. It looks like it'll be heading closer to the Duwamish head, so it'll affect the noise issue. It's a landing path, so hopefully it doesn't impact the noise for our area. But in times when there's less wind, so the jets will need a little more boost. So it does affect that. So moving the noise from one area of Seattle to another is a concern. We'll express that at our FAA meeting coming up next week.
So we need to, you're not the first person to have raised this issue. So to give everyone some background, SeaTac Airport, and that's the Port of Seattle, and it's regulated by the Federal Aviation Administration, is getting some new equipment that will, enable them to get more planes in and out of the airport. So more planes is potentially more noise. The other side of that, though, is that they're hopeful. You may have been on a plane, you go, you descend, you level out, you descend. They're talking about making a much more smooth descent. So that has the potential to reduce noise, because they have to gun the engines when they, re-level out again. So there's a lot of pros and cons and winners, potential winners and losers too, as they adjust flight paths. And I've heard from multiple neighborhoods about this, so what I'm hearing is that we need at the city to really get engaged and see if there's a way we can address this process. It's a little challenging because these decisions are, man, we don't hand out the permits for this or make the decisions. The FAA makes the call on this, and we lobby them. So, but we will take a closer look at this and start developing a city position on how we should deal with this.
Okay, number 9, and then where's number 10?
Hello, good evening. Mayor McGinn, welcome to West Seattle.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I live in this wonderful community and also work here as a counselor, and a large majority of my clients are at-risk youth. My question is in regards to the numerous shootings that have taken place. A large number have been involving young people. What's your stance on mental health services, and do you think that it has an impact on preventing future violence?
Tell me a little bit more about why you asked that question and your experiences with that.
Well, as I said, a lot of my clients are from broken homes. They are considered at risk. They come from really diverse cultural backgrounds. A lot of their parents are immigrants and refugees, and they come with a lot of problems with depression and suicide, and they don't have a lot of their needs met. And I'm not sure if it's because of the educational infrastructure or because of the cultural differences, or maybe a lack of parent advocacy. But I'm seeing a lot of clients who are potentially involved in gangs and are looking for help and a way to kind of deal with their problems. And so that's why I bring up mental health services.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, it's a particular challenge for the children of immigrants. Oftentimes, they acquire the language quicker and understand the culture more quickly, and they're put into a really, they start carrying the burden for the family too of leadership within a new community, which can be really hard for a young person. So it's a particularly difficult challenge for our immigrant youth. Their parents are struggling, maybe struggling too, to get back into the new country. One of the things we need to provide, obviously we need to provide good health services to everybody, but the challenges of immigrant youth in particular need addressing. One of the things we did in the last levy that was approved by the city, was expand the number of school-based health clinics. And so it's not, the school-based health clinic isn't just the school nurse. It's a higher quality of service, and also provides access to, potential access to mental health, counseling, and the like. So, and I've toured those centers and spoken to the folks that work there. And oftentimes, because the kids are in school, they can develop a rapport, they might start sharing information about their home life that can lead them to connect to services. So I was really glad that people of Seattle were supportive of the levy because of what it meant for the expansion of school-based health services. We also just launched, and this isn't mental health, but we also just launched a pilot program, one of the very few new programs, given the dollars we've had, that we've been able to launch, around job training for immigrant youth, because they do have some particular challenges as well. The gun violence issue is really challenging, and a lot of our youth, and then it continues into adulthood, and a lot of the gun violence we've seen has been from adults as well. A lot more than youth, actually, but youth as well. Somehow or another it's acceptable or part of the culture to carry a gun, use a gun to resolve a dispute or to deal with somebody disrespecting a person. And we're working on, our police are working on the enforcement side, and that matters, right? If you can arrest somebody, you can prevent prevent something bad from happening in the future. We've been working on gun stings and the like, but the real focus over the long term, if we're really going to succeed, it's going to be the community addressing these young people and demonstrating that there's a different path. And it's one of the reasons why I made the education a priority, the job training a priority, but we've got to pick up and improve our efforts. We're launching something we call Safe Communities, in which we're going to start reaching out to communities about how we can work together, in particular around intervening with youth. So I invite you to join us in that, but we do have a lot of work to do. And I think in the long term, that's the long-term solution. In the short term, we really need everyone to help us out on this too, right? You know, somebody knows who's heading out there with a gun. Somebody knows who's in trouble. You know, the community knows oftentimes, and we have to find a way to share that information with each other and do something about it. And that's challenging. I know I've been asking our police department to get out in the community more and communicate more directly with people. And we've been trying to, inside government, build stronger connections between the different agencies of government. So we're approaching this in a holistic manner, not just in an enforcement kind of way.
Okay, number 10 is right up front. Where's number 11? You're right behind you.
My name is Shirley Sherman, and I live near the West Seattle Junction. And I just don't understand why Alaska Street was reconfigured that way to put a bus lane there when you take away road space that we don't have enough of for buses.
Okay, so this speaks to the rapid route, yes, out to West Seattle. So, this is, taking away road space to have dedicated transit priority. And there's a few things we know. So I'm just going to talk about a few data points first. That over the last decade, this SDOT actually does a report. And what we know is that transit use went up, walking went up, biking went up a lot as a percentage. And the actual amount of driving, and I know nobody believes me when I say this, actually dropped about 7% over the 10-year period. So what we're seeing is people are choosing different modes. And we have to, and we all, with the exception of, say, building a tunnel or building a light rail line, we really aren't in a position to create much in the way of new roadway capacity in the city of Seattle. There's just not, we're a dense city. There's not a lot of ways to build new capacity. So we have to figure out how to reallocate the road space we have, to be the most efficient as possible. And this is the other data point I'd give you. Right now in downtown, the density of jobs and services we have down there, and the number of people that go in and out of the peak hour, over 50% now arrive by transit, carpool, walking, or biking. And most of that is, the transit. And that's what drives our downtown economy, which, is where a lot of our jobs are and where a lot of our tax revenues come from. And if we don't find a way to get more people in and out of downtown with the same amount of road space we have, and the way we're going to do that is with light rail, with giving buses more priority, then we're going to make it harder for people to get to and from work. So we do have to make those adjustments, and we try to do so in each case. We went through a long process there, and we made adjustments to the route. But we know that more and more people want to use the bus. One bus carries a lot of people, and it's a very efficient way of getting people in and out of our town, saves people money in their own pocketbook, and our downtown and our local economy needs it, because that's how people need to get to and from their jobs.
It's one thing to expect people, you can take the bus to work or something, but to live without a car and have kids, you're not going to have a family a city with children. You're just, you're just not.
No, that's absolutely right. And the point is that you're making is that some people, in particular parents with kids, find themselves needing to drive. Most people in the city need to drive, and they need to drive in many different circumstances. In fact, I think the last time I was in here in this gym was driving my kid out here, and I was the coach of her basketball team. And by the way, she was the point guard, and the other team was really good, but she hung in there. She was really tough. She's a good little point guard. She quit basketball though, broke her daddy's heart, but she's running track. So that's why. But you're right, people do need to drive. And it's not an either-or situation we're talking about. What we're doing is we're looking at our roadways, and we just have to balance between, automobiles, bicycles, transit, and parking. And that balance is going to be different on different roads and in different places. And we try to work that balance as best we can, recognizing that people's tastes are changing and people's choices are changing too.
Okay. Number 12, and then where's number lucky 13? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor McGinn's. Susan Rupert, Genesee Schmidt's Neighborhood Council. I'm just going to give you a little background first. Central to our neighborhood is the Genesee Hill School. It closed several years ago, reopened again as a Pathfinder, and then reclosed again about 2 years ago. We have a small group, but we have been trying to keep the school as clean as possible. There's been some issues with people going in behind the school, graffiti, some drug use, drug selling, etc. The neighborhood has been as on top of that as possible, reporting what we can, paging out the graffiti, etc. We also have a community garden on the property that we felt would encourage people to use the space and keep away that element. In the school district's wisdom, they decided to fence off most of the access to the school. You cannot freely walk from one block to another. They felt that it was better to fence off and keep out the community and allow the element to use the space, and it would keep out the community from going in there and being harmed by whatever was left.
So the question is, can we
I haven't got to my question yet. I'm just giving you my background.
Okay, I'm ready for the question. I'm anticipating.
We have tried to work with the school district in removing the fences, painting out the graffiti, etc. We are getting nowhere. We just don't know where to go next. Okay. It is our community, it is our school, central to our neighborhood. Yeah. And it is becoming very derelict. We would like to do what we can, but we are being held back.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Sol, can you make sure you get all the information on this? And I have met since taking office. I've had monthly meetings with the school district superintendent. We've tried to improve, and deepen the relationship with the school district and the city over time. We have a new superintendent, Jose Banda. I've met him. I actually haven't started my monthly meetings with him yet. But let us track down this problem, and I would be happy to, if there's, I feel like I'm looking back to our police department too. If our police department is aware of this and have recommendations about what's the best, the crime prevention through environmental design for this space, you do, you're aware of this? Hang on a second, Captain Paulson. I think I got the, could you? You need the mic for Seattle Channel.
Hi there. Actually, with the Genesee Hill site, we do training, we do work with the school district at that location. And I have to be completely candid with you. This is the first time we've heard about the graffiti issue, so I apologize for that. But at the same time, we have a solution that can help too because of our relationship there. I think we can find something through SEPTED design, but also find a way to make this work for the neighborhood up there. Because actually it's a very quiet neighborhood on a lot of levels. And I think it's something that we can work with the district on and take care of that.
Okay, so I can refer, and if you guys aren't making progress in the SPD, then follow up with the mayor's office. Thank you. Okay.
All right, number 13, and then where's number 14?
Good evening, I'm Dick Burley, and I'm from right here in West Seattle. We've met before, Mayor McGinn. And again, I'd like to ask you if you have considered using shot spotters to identify actual gunshots from fireworks and pinpoint their location to within just a few feet. I believe that it will create a better safety venue or better safety for the officers responding to shots fired calls. And I think that it will eliminate, or let's put it this way, abate some of the shots that are fired within our city.
I can answer your question. I have asked the Seattle Police Department to analyze ShotSpotter and come back to me with their views and recommendations. So we are considering it, and then we will make a decision, and we'll let you know what that decision is.
Okay, number 14.
One more comment. I heard somebody mention a large price tag for ShotSpotters. And believe me, there isn't an officer on this department that isn't worth 3 times that price tag.
We are, of course, cost is always a factor. What ShotSpotter does is you set up to bring people along. I've been learning a little bit more about this too. What ShotSpotter does is you set up microphones, or things that can listen, and then when a shot is fired, it can, and you have to have the feedback, you have to have the network, you have to have the analysis done, but it can very rapidly, through triangulation, distinguish between a shot and a car backfire, and then locate the spot that it occurs. And when you do that, then that means that the responding units can know where it is. So rather than I heard a shot somewhere over there, it can be much more precise, and that can help the responding units respond to the crime. It can help you identify where you should start looking for video. By the way, video is really important in crime solving. And the city is a little bit of a spotty history. Yeah, the city has a little bit of a spotty history of putting up cameras, but businesses that put up cameras and then can share video with us if they saw something, I would encourage any business owner, there's no prohibition on you putting up a camera because you're a private business owner, and then you can share that information if it's needed. So homeowners can too, right, homeowners can too. So it can really help in both the immediate response to potential apprehension of somebody and the investigation too. Of course, it's not a panacea, it's another tool, but it's a potentially very helpful one. So we're analyzing the options and the cost, and then we'll get back to you and the public about what we'll do on that.
Okay, so we'll move on to number 14, and then where's number 15? Okay, right behind you.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Thank you. So I've lived in the city a long time. To give you an example of that, when I was a little kid, I can remember some of our roads were paved with bricks, which unfortunately tells you how old I am.
Sometimes you can see that brick when the pavement gets a little worn out.
Guess what my question is going to be about? Over the last couple decades, I've watched how the city has grown in many ways, and unfortunately, one of them that I'm disappointed in is that many of our streets, and there are several of them in arterials here in West Seattle, where they've put on a layer of asphalt, and then when it needs to be repaved, they put another layer on top of that. And believe me, I'm a great fan of asphalt when it's brand new. There's nothing better. It's fantastic. Unfortunately, 2 things happen. One, we have disappearing curbs all over the city because the streets are getting higher and higher and higher. And the other problem I feel is that while the roads are great initially, they deteriorate rather rapidly. There are many, many roads, not arterials, but many residential roads that I've driven on since I was in high school that have, from my observation, basically the same concrete paving that they had when I was in high school, or lasted that long. I appreciate the fact that concrete roadways, good sturdy ones with lots of steel in them, are very, very expensive to build. And it's much, much easier for someone budget-minded as you are in times of austerity as we live in right now to think, well, we really need to do what's best for the city in the short run, is spend a little bit of money to put asphalt on again. What I would ask is, could you possibly consider putting together a committee that would involve some outside independent experts from universities or consulting firms? They would take a look long-term at the pros and cons of spending a large amount of money to do some major arterials properly, with completely tearing it out, putting in all new heavy concrete roads that can withstand the heavy truck and bus traffic that we have.
So your question actually implicates some of the bigger questions. The first one is simply short-term versus long-term. And we have, I'll say this, we have some real problems with that, in the city. And it's not just about our roads. In the long run, the way in which we polluted the Duwamish wasn't that good an idea, right? We didn't take care of that natural infrastructure properly. And now we're very expensively trying to bring it back, and there's a lot of harm caused in the process. So, with our physical infrastructure of our roadways, the big new project is just frankly always more exciting to the politician than the basics. And we see that in the current condition of our roadways. Your comment about residential streets, I look at our budget, we look at our program, and there is an ideal, maintenance life cycle on roadways. And you can, a concrete roadway is more upfront and has fewer repairs over time, but then there's a bigger cost at the end. An asphalt roadway, if you take care of it over time, might actually be cheaper, but there's a maintenance cycle that you got to get in there and fix it in a timely way. And if you let it go too far, then it's a lot more expensive. Right now, we are not keeping up with our arterial major maintenance and repair. And if we're not keeping up on our arterials on our residential streets, we're doing almost nothing. We really are doing almost nothing on our arterials, unless there's something that gets to life safety hazard, and then we'll go out and patch it or fix it. So we're really way, way behind right now in the city on infrastructure on our local streets. And part of that is the political dynamic around raising money for the big projects. And part of what you see is our taxing authority for what we can do locally comes from the state. And the state has given us some choices, and we took a shot with the vehicle license fee, didn't do so well. We went to the voters and lost. That would do some of that. I proposed raising the parking tax to take care of arterials, and the city council approved an increase in the parking tax for Mercer, and they didn't approve it for anywhere else. So they just said, we'll go this far but no further. So we have a basic financing problem. So we have the Bridging the Gap property tax levy, which we passed a few years ago. And a lot of the projects, and Bell Ridge is one of them, a lot of the major road projects are because we passed that property tax levy a few years ago. And it's coming around again. 2015, it's coming around again. So, and I have, whenever I've had extra money, I've tried to put it into maintenance. And it's usually the spot maintenance where you go out and cut out a chunk of road and fix it, rather than just going and filling potholes again and again and again, try to redo it. But the type of overall major maintenance you're talking, overhauling our roadways, getting caught up, right now is a very expensive proposition. I think Don Ho would listen to, and he's the city traffic engineer. It's really somebody else who's chief responsibility for the maintenance cycle. We'd be happy to, have best analysis of what we're doing, but we can analyze the best thing to do, but without the funds to do it. Right now, if we had more money for roads, we could reinvest it in our roadways, and just any number of things we do would be good things to do. Right now, it would be cost effective and would save us money in the long run. We just haven't had that commitment to taking care of local roads the way we've had our commitment to build big new things. Okay. I'm going to keep working on that. It matters because the local roads are, go to these Del Ridge business districts. The local roads are, when the kids ride their bikes to school on. Right? Everybody uses those local roads, and it's pretty important in our city to our economic health and success because people love this city, and they love it because of the quality of life we provide.
I just want to make sure you're done.
I can keep going on this one. Thank you.
So number 15.
You might want to cut me off sometimes, Pete.
And then I was told not to.
Well, you can cut me off, Pete. You can do it.
And then number 16.
This is a perfect segue because I also have a traffic and roadway concern and a question. Specifically, I'm thinking of the completion of the elevated Spokane Street Viaduct. This week, it's finally at the end of its 2.5-year completion, and my concern, yes, applaud. My concern is that they're considering it completed before it has good striping and good visibility and roads. I've spoken to someone at Community Relations. They have said that the way it sits today is how it's going to continue. I spoke to Don Ho, and he also confirmed. What we have right now is a confusing mess as you come off the freeway, and you're now going to have to be merging into lanes. There is not good striping. There's old stripes that are showing. There's grooves from the stripes that they've dug out. So it's my concern is that it's dangerous and that the job is completed before it really is completed. That's my concern. The question I have for you is, will SDOT be considering revising the speed limit on the Spokane Street Viaduct? It's been at 35 for years, but most people go 45 to 50 something. I know the police are out there, they're doing a lot of ticketing, but I think that the city, and my question is, will the city consider raising the speed limit so those of us who do go the speed limit aren't holding up traffic?
Don Ho, can you answer this one? Both the quality of the project completion and the speed limit question.
So the issue of construction on a concrete...
a little closer to your mouth.
The construction on concrete surfaces, when you have striping down and then you have to remove it, you actually have to grind that striping down, it creates a scarring on the surface. So exactly right, there's certain times of day with the sun or the rain, the striping is very confusing. We have some tools that we are looking at. If you drive on the freeway system, you'll see that the striping has little raised bumps built into the stripe. It's a new product, it's an epoxy product called methacrylate. It's kind of a mouthful, but it's very durable, but very expensive product. But if you think about life safety and also the longevity, it lasts 7 to 12 years. Provides a little bump as you drive over it, so you actually know that you're driving over a lane. When it's raining, the bump actually has a profile that you can use as a guide. So we're actually going to start using that. Spokane Street does have this material put in them. We also have this material put on the viaduct. So you'll actually see it. We can also do other things like putting in raised pavement markers. That will also give us some guidance. So those are some of the tools that we're looking at.
So you are looking at fixing us in town speed limit.
So speed limit is one of the strongest tools that we use to make sure that the facility is safe. Sometimes it's kind of a chicken and egg thing where you have a speed limit and you want to encourage safe travel. As you raise speed limit, people will actually feel more comfortable driving a little bit above that. So it's kind of a never-ending scenario where you put it at 40, put it at 45, and the operating speed will tend to rise. And as a result, safety will decrease. And so we want to be very careful when we apply the tool of raising speed limits. So we'll definitely take a look at speeds along Spokane Street as well after the construction is complete. But again, there's a lot of traffic going over that section, and we want to make sure that people travel safely. And so we don't want to encourage higher speeds. We want to encourage responsible speeds, and we'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
Okay, number 16. And where's number 17? Okay, way in the back.
Hi, first I wanted to thank you for being here. It's my first town hall. It's really insightful, so thank you for being willing to
hear what we have to say. I actually have two questions that are related. I'm a neighbor here. My name is Denise. I live here in Westwood. And we live across the street from a house that's been abandoned for 3 years. And we have numerously been in touch with the planning department, with the, first we got in touch with the city council, and nothing has happened. And now the blackberries and in our walk over here, there are about 5 houses that are abandoned. And so it's really a problem in our neighborhood, and there doesn't seem to be much that anybody can do about it. I know that the house across the street is owned by Bank of America, and which is also ironically the bank I understand that the city banks with. So the other irony is that the person that lived there that was taking care of the house got taken away because he was dealing pot, and he was a good neighbor, and now we have Bank of America, which is a terrible neighbor, and there's not much we can seem to do about it, and we support Bank of America with our city financing. So it's a really twisted situation that doesn't seem like we have and I want to know what citizens can do to solve both getting the city to move their money like we moved ours, because I think that making the housing crisis setting up the housing situation to crash is a bigger crime than dealing pot. And I want to know what we can do as partners, because I really love this city, what we can do to solve some of these problems that are all interconnected.
Great question. Thank you for coming to the town hall, and I hope your questions will start. Marshall, speak first to the abandoned houses, and then I'll take on the broader societal questions.
Or the banking question.
The banking question, yeah.
So on the abandoned houses, I think the key thing for us is I can help you elevate that issue. In DPD, we have a group called the Code Compliance Group. They deal with property that's not being well cared for, and we definitely have strong policies on the books to be able to go after that. We just have to connect you with the right person to do that. So I'll give you a card.
Okay, thank you.
So the second one on the banking. So I think we bank, I don't know, now I need to double check. I thought we banked with Wells Fargo, not Bank of America. We might bank with Bank of America. So here's the deal. Under state law, there are certain criteria that cities have to use in choosing a bank. And that criteria has to do primarily with size, because they want to reduce the risk. You know, cities are subject to the state. You know, we're kind of creatures of the state. So the state wants to reduce the risk that a city will find that they lost their money because a bank went under. Ironic. But so we have to bank with a large bank. We actually, I think, put out a request for proposal not too long ago, and the responses we get are from all the big banks. So our ability to use a smaller local bank is just constrained by state law. Having said that, Bob Hasagawa has proposed a state bank, and I personally support that idea. I think it's a great idea. North Dakota has had one. You know, way back in the populist and progressive era at the turn of the century, North Dakota created a state bank. And that's been a great economic development tool for them, because they can deposit their money there and they manage it well, and they have some control over their lending. Kind of like we have a publicly owned utility, which is, you know, we have a carbon neutral utility because we manage our public utility for public goals, not just profit. And so I would support something like that. Our choices on banks aren't so great now under state law, unfortunately. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think that was a very effective presentation as well on the ironies of having a who would you rather have as your neighbor.
Okay, so that was number 16. Just in the to do a time check here, how many more questions do we have? Okay, so because we've only got about 10 minutes.
Well, about 10
minutes left.
I'll try to move quicker.
Okay, so we'll go to
Let's
number
go to the questions.
Number 17.
Oh, okay. My name is Asta Tata, And I want to ask a question to get some understanding from you about your educational role as mayor.
Yes.
How exactly do you work with the Seattle Public Schools? And with the new change in the return to the neighborhood schools, how you see the challenges of meeting the needs of the schools that are still in high poverty areas?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great question. I made it a priority I made education a priority when taking office, and didn't try to say, oh, that's the school district's responsibility. You know, of course, we don't have direct control. School district boards, separately elected, they choose the superintendent, they allocate the funds they receive from the state. I've had monthly meetings with both superintendents we've had so far, and we'll have them with the third one. Also launched something called an education leadership group, where we have heads of organizations which have dollars to invest. United Way, Seattle Foundation, Gates Foundation, AFL-CIO, SEIU, Community College System, UW, to talk about how we can collaborate on a common roadmap of support. The Families in Education Levy tries to work on that roadmap. What are the right places to invest in our kids? From early learning to school-based health clinics, third-grade reading programs, mentorship, college preparation. Those investments are focused on the schools with the greatest need. And those schools are very often the schools that you reference. High immigrant, high communities of color, participation, lots of low-income students, and that's where we give our preference in our Families and Education Levy dollars for granting programs, that supplement the state funding. There's more we can do. We ran an attendance campaign in the last year. We solicited prizes from lots of people in the community to encourage kids to be in school. We have a new pilot up in Northgate around third grade reading with Parks Department, HSD, Library, Department of Neighborhoods partnered with the Northgate Elementary to see what we can do to raise third grade reading levels in the summer program. And we're going to try to keep expanding that.
Okay, number 18. And then where's number 19?
Hi, my name is Dina Schwartz. I'm a resident of Highland Park. And I had one question that I came here with, but in the process of listening to everyone, I would like to, I'm switching my question. Cindy Burke brought up the Morgan bike lane situation. 2 years ago, a woman from the city came to the Highland Park Action Committee and presented the plan for the city to do the revisions and talk to communities about whatever changes were going to happen to it. And I mentioned that my concern at that point was that it's the bike revised old plan of 2007 went as far as Delridge or 16th, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it wasn't far enough up into Highland Park to pick up the newly improved West Crest Park and the new pedestrian corridors that were being worked on, the new crosswalk improvements and such. So she said at the time, that she took that into consideration. They said, it's just bicycle paths stopped. It didn't come all the way up to the park. So she said she would take care of it, and I get this impression that the plan may have been made, had changes to it, but it's not up on the site yet. Is that what the situation?
Barton Street, I do not know the status of the Barton Street project. I don't know the status of that project. I'm sorry about what the current configuration is. So we'll get that and send it out. Don Ho will send it to you.
Oh, not Barton. No, there's the bike path going north-south, stopped on Delridge. It didn't come any further east into Highland Park to pick up 9th Avenue or West Crest Park. And that, at the time, a few years ago, they said, well, they'll take care of it and bring it out. So.
Got it. So Don Ho will try to give you specifically where we are on that one. And if after you hear where it is, you think it should be different, let me know and let them know. If after you hear what the status of the plans are, if you think the plans should be different, please let us know.
Okay, number 18 is right up here, Ed. Oh, 19, I'm sorry. Is right here, Ed. 19. And then where's number 20?
Great. Is there no 20? All right.
20's in the back.
Okay, got it. 19 and 20.
Hi, my name is Matt Knudsen, and I live in the 8100 block of 9th Avenue Southwest.
And approximately a month and a half ago, I was walking out of my front gate and was hit by a bicyclist on the sidewalk that was moving, I don't know how fast it was going, I didn't see him coming. But, I was knocking on my butt, and broke a few ribs, and, bloodied up. But, if I'd been a senior citizen or a little kid, it would have been much worse. And there's a church about a block west of where I live, and a daycare 2 blocks west. And Tent City's right at the bottom of Highland Park Drive, approximately a mile east of where I live. So there's been a lot more traffic. There's a lot more people that are less likely to have helmets or lights on their bikes, that kind of thing. Is there any way that we could get a bike lane put in, or maybe some signs? Because the city's been making it wheelchair accessible on the street, and so people are able to just cruise right along with their bike and not have to slow down for a curve or anything. Is there anything that could be done?
Got it. So people are using Highland Park Drive. They're using the sidewalk as
more on 9th Avenue Southwest when you get to the top of
9th Avenue Southwest.
Because there's, it's the closest grocery stores and everything are in White Center for the homeless people. So.
Okay, we can take a look at that. And how you doing?
Oh yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
They're just ribs, but if I was.
No, I hear you on that. And so, and it's interesting, just it's more educational. It is legal to ride on the sidewalk, but you're supposed to do so at a safe speed and yield to all pedestrians. So your point about it would be better to have a safe in-street facility than have people trying to ride fast on the sidewalk is absolutely right. So we'll take a look at that.
Anything to do to improve safety.
Yes.
Would be nice.
We are launching tomorrow our road safety. We had a road safety summit last fall. We're going to launch our road safety campaign. Part of it's engineering, and we'll take I'll ask them to take a look at that. Thank you.
Okay, number 20 is in the back, and is there 21, or is 20 our last number?
Hi, welcome back to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
My question, Diane Vincent, my question has to do with something that just happened yesterday and today. It has to do with, it's not about roads, it's about equity in public access to computers, with our Seattle libraries known for a long time to be closed, starting yesterday and going through until the day after Labor Day. Yesterday I spent a couple hours going over all the community center websites to find out which computer rooms through our city were open for me to go there. And so I wrote down maps for all the different community centers where I could go use the computers. Because I'm looking for a job, I need to use the computers. I can use the senior center up till 5 o'clock, but it closes at 5. Then I called those centers and found out Delridge, which is close to me, I live up in Agawam, Delridge is closed, the computer program center. I called this center, it was closed. I just talked to the gal out there when I came in and said, where's the computer room? She says it's closed this week. I went down to South Park and was fortunately able to go in there last night, but it really was supposed to be closed. So my question is communications. Why does the website have incorrect information? Why, during a time when you already know way ahead of time that the library is going to be closed and there's many thousands of people who rely on those computers to hunt for jobs, to take care of business, why aren't these computer labs open during this week?
You are absolutely right, and we should coordinate that, and we shouldn't be, we should be talking across departments and anticipating things like that. You're absolutely right. So that's something that we're just going to have to take note of for the future and try to do better on.
Is it too late to make a mayoral order to lift the ban on the computer labs this week so the people who need computers can use them?
No, it is not too late, and I am going to. I don't know what type of. My powers, while extraordinary, are indeed limited. But there are implications. But you know what? I am going to call Christopher Williams from the Parks Department ahead in the morning. And Sol, you're going to remind me to do that. Because you're absolutely right. And when the libraries are closed, we should be thinking about how else in government we can address that. You're absolutely right about that. And that's an oversight on our part not to do that. The good news is with the passage of the library levy next year, the libraries will be open. But there is the remainder of this week. So let me see what we can do on that topic.
Okay, so thanks everyone for coming out tonight. Thanks to all of the
Pete,
city.
can I get a close?
Huh?
Will you give me a short close?
I will, just a second.
Okay, go ahead.
It's, I was given instructions on how this was supposed to flow.
You're doing great, man.
So anyway, thanks to all the city staff that came out. Thanks to all of our community organizations that came out to share knowledge of their organizations. As you've noticed, the Seattle channel is here tonight recording this. If you signed up out front and gave your email address, you will be getting an email from the mayor's office giving you a link to when the video of tonight is available. And with that, thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. McGinn. Thank you for coming out to our Del Ridge community.
Thank you, Pete. And you, many of you I'm sure know Pete. He's a civic activist extraordinaire. And I just want to say thank you all for coming out. This is really, I started doing these town halls when I was campaigning. In fact, when I was head of the Greenwood Community Council, we would try to bring, folks from city government to the community to talk to us about the issues we're trying to facilitate that, try to have a direct dialogue. And when I first started running for mayor, and when I became mayor, we held these town halls, and I have to admit, it was always a challenge to head out to each one, and it's gotten to the point where I actually really enjoy them, because everyone, I learned something new. I really do. And everyone, we saw some examples tonight where people were connected, and some of these connections I hope are going to lead to, something positive. Because I want you to understand, I want you to believe, I want us to prove, that city government is going to be accountable to you. That we are dedicated to making, the best city we can. And that it begins with you. I have no question about who my bosses are. I get a few 100,000 of them. And I love my job. I love working with you all. I love this city. And the reason it's a great city is because you care about your community, you invest in it, you take the time to reach out to your neighbors, you take the time to get engaged in civic causes, you take the time to look out for that kid down the street who may be heading into trouble. So thank you all for everything you do to make this a great city. I'm really proud to be a mayor of a city like this.